This is the author here. She has like a mixed background. Like her mom's was a slave. I think her grandmom's was a Native American. I was born in a log cabin in Holmesville, Pike County, Mississippi, November 25th, 1861. My mother was the daughter of Squire Yancey, a slave, a local preacher of the AME Church. My father left home for the war and never returned. My mother's mother was an Indian for whom I was named. My grandparents kept me with them until I was 8 years old. Grandfather and I, grandfather and I were much in love with each other. He rarely went to town, Summit, about 7 miles from home, without taking me along with him, without taking me along on the ox team. These were treats to which I eagerly looked forward. I well remember my first money and how I invested it. A gentleman in the store where grandfather dealt gave me two silver 5-cent pieces. I began to look around for the largest thing I could purchase for 5 cents. It proved to be a sugar loaf, which was about 10 inches long and about 8 inches around and was smooth, pink, and very pretty. I bought it, and the clerk wrapped a piece of brown paper around it, and I went out on the steps to eat while waiting for grandfather to finish his shopping. A goat came up just as I seated myself, sprang at me, and grabbed the brown paper. I held on tightly and screamed for help, hugging the loaf so closely that it was crushed and made just one little handful of pink sugar. It was nearly all wind. The other 5 cents I put into my mouth for safekeeping and swallowed it. I was inconsolable and cried myself to sleep that night at the loss of my first money. Oh man, that's super cool. I like that. That's a man. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird or whatever, but I really just be enjoying these stories. I really do, man. There's something about it. I don't know. It's something that grabs me. It's something that gravitates me towards these stories. That was a very cute little story that she told. She had 10 cents, spent five of it on a sugar loaf. I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what that is, but I'm going to have to assume it's just a loaf of sugar, which is crazy for a treat. But I mean, I guess that's what all treats are, right? And then a goat comes out of nowhere and tries to eat it. And because she was trying to save her bread, she swallowed the other 5 cent piece. Like, what? All right. Grandfather helped to build the first church for Negroes in Summit. Being one of the founders and having a little education, he was so anxious to have us taught that he gave us the use of the church to a northern missionary to open the first school for colored children. I shall never forget the first day in school. There were about 20 children seated on 4 long, rough, backless benches. Man, I know their posture was on point. Had to sit up on their own without the backs. I was in the front row. Grandfather had given me his precious old blueback speller. Noticing I was the only one that had a book, I felt sorry for the other children and divided my book with them by tearing out leaves and passing one to each child. Meanwhile, the teacher was unfolding a large cloth chart having the alphabet, which attracted my attention. Then our work began in earnest. You look at that. Sweet girl. Very sweet girl. Wanting to help. Her grandfather obviously was a very influential person in her life. She spent so much time with him. He literally is the reason why she could go to school, because he was one of the people that built the church inside of the town. This is what I be talking about when it comes to like how integral family is. She watched her grandfather build a church with the other black men in town to make sure that people not only had a place to worship, but also had a place to educate the babies. And he obviously invested in her education because she was the only one in the class out of 20 children to have a book. So he clearly emphasized education because out of 20 children, she was the only one with a book. And then because she realized what she considered her own privilege, she was like, you know what? Everybody eats. Everybody gets a page. Everybody gets to have their own version of a book today. You see what I be talking about when I be talking about community and the ancestral black American ethos? This is a child. It's instilled in her off the rip. to share amongst her people. And this is, of course, a child's play, so she's going to do it in a childlike way. But these values were instilled in her obviously very young. She got that energy or got that moral from her family. In the churchyard, nearby slept a silent congregation in which nearly every home in the church was represented. Piece of plank marking the grave of some departed loved one. How I love the big meeting days, when on the first Sunday of the month, people came from 1 to 30 miles to hear the gospel from some poor, earnest, struggling black preacher. We children sat on the floor around the altar, glad to be there, sometimes falling asleep and bumping our heads. When preaching was over, we would eat dinner that had been prepared on Sunday, water our stock, and start for home. As we only lived 2 miles from the church, my grandparents walked. Brother Eugene and I ran on in front through the woods, taking off our shoes and wading through the creek while the old folks walked the log further down. Our parents were very poor. We had to go barefoot all the summer so as to save our shoes for winter. Okay. There were russets with brass tips, and brother and I would try to see which could shine those tips the brightest. Then when all work was done, we rushed away to the clay pile to make mud pies, men, houses, etc. Sometimes grandfather came out and while watching us made some useful suggestions that we always prized. We had no toys and sometimes amused ourselves catching butterflies. Grandfather would tell us the names of the pretty colors on their wings, then we would let them go. Often I watched them as far as I could, and then would ask where they had gone. Was there another town like ours? He would answer yes, and tell of the large city far away where he hoped to go someday. His hopes were realized sooner than he expected. My oldest uncle lived on a plantation with his wife and 2 children. The overseer had ordered my uncle's wife to come to his room while uncle was away. When he returned, he took his gun and killed the overseer. And this made my uncle a fugitive from his own town. See, I be trying to tell y'all that the ancestors was never pussy. I be trying to tell y'all. This is just her autobiography. She's just telling you about her life. Okay? Okay? So, listen here. Wasn't none of that going on. He did what? He did what to you? Say less. Overseer was dead. Overseer was dead. That's just how that goes. Happens more often than you think. Anyway, grandfather was so troubled by this he could not live in peace at his home. I was 8 years old and brother was 10 when they moved to the city of New Orleans and sent us to a private school near our home. See, more emphasis on education, more investing in their education. They grew up poor. But she's the one with the book, and now she's in New Orleans going to private school. 4 years later, found me in the 4th grade in Mrs. Ludwig's room in the public school of Cleo Street in Britannia, or near Britannia. My grandparents both died, leaving us with mother, who had married a sailor. She moved downtown and sent me to Straight University a while. My stepfather died, and mother had to take me from school. Brother and I had to help her earn money to support the other 3 children. My heart ached, and many nights my pillow was wet with tears because I could not finish school. That's another thing that I saw a lot of. Like, taking these kids, particularly little girls, because boys, they were taken out of school more frequently than girls just because of, obviously, like, gender-based work and stuff like that. Like, the boys needed to be out on the field with the other men and stuff like that. So I know Booker T. Washington didn't really go to school much, and I know other little black boys, for the most part, only went to school maybe 4 to 6 months out of the year, if that, because they had to work during the grow season and the harvest season and stuff like that. So a lot of the boys were taken out of schools, but the girls, yeah, they would keep the girls in school considerably longer than the boys. And one of the things that I saw over and over again is that when little girls during the late 19th century couldn't go to school, they were heartbroken. Little boys too. Don't get me wrong. It's like little boys love education too, but their education was more physical. They like learning by doing. That I'm pretty sure a lot of men can attest to this. Like I tell y'all all of the time, I had my first job at 13, working 13 hours a day just because of me wanting to learn more from my boss. It was a black American man who took me in and looked out for me and was like a father figure to me in my teenage years, and also he put money in my pocket. So I would much rather spend 13 hours a day at 13 years old, which I did, than going to school. So I didn't really miss school like that. I wasn't that scholastic or academically inclined. I just liked learning though, and I think that's a big difference. And so little girls, they love school. My sister, she loves school. And I'm not saying all girls love school, but I know by and large, the more studious, isn't that like even a stat right now when it comes to black women and all that other stuff? They have the most degrees and all of that stuff. Like girls love school. Like they like going to school. So her being heartbroken that she couldn't finish school, it tracks. This is hundreds of years. You feel me? That it still tracks to this very day. Let's go. I love poetry, and every spare penny I got went for books, which I read at night. Our lot was hard, but when brother told me confidentially that he was tired of working for $10 per month and had decided to run away and accept a place as a cook on the Illinois Central freight train, my cup of sorrow was full to overflowing. Man. Oof. We gonna finish. We was done after this anyway. I just wanted to really highlight her relationship with her grandfather because family is important. When a month had passed, he wrote to mother begging her pardon and sending her his first month's wages. He sent her the rent regularly every month until she died 20 years later. This boy paid his mother's rent for 20 years. 20 years. Only his color has prevented his rising to a higher position than charge of the president's private car. For he is loved and respected by all the railroad officials. So he's working on the railroad, sending his mother money every month so she can pay the rent. So it wasn't just like, he was like, I'm working for $10 a month. And that's clearly not paying rent. That's clearly not paying rent. Takes a chance on himself and his ability to go to Illinois. You feel me? And now he's making more money, so much so that his apology to his mother was paying her rent for the next 2 decades until she died. That woman didn't have to worry about her rent. Like, I know you miss me. I know I left kind of hastily, but it was for good reason. And I got you. Don't worry about it, Ma. Don't worry about it. I got you. I know you a widow. I know you by yourself. And I know you got Frances. That's my little sister. I'm going to make sure y'all are okay. And if it wasn't for honestly, if it wasn't for me, for these motherfuckers being super racist and shit, I would have been a manager. I would have been running this shit. But, their company, their rules. So it is what it is. But here's the rent every month on time. 20 years. 20 years. You got to give it up for him, son. What's that, 240 months? Something like that? Yeah, 10 years would be 120. So, yeah, 240 months on time every month. Held it down. In my 17th year, let's continue. In my 17th year, I had many suitors. All right. Slow it down, Frances. What you mean you had many? We might have to keep reading. Hold on. I was wed and lived happily with my husband for 10 years when drink, the curse of America, gained a hold on him and destroyed our happiness and made a legal separation necessary. Damn. So she chose and she was able to stick with him for 10 years, but then he got to that alcohol. That alcohol. All right. It was then the Lord called me to the mission field. And in trying to cheer the brokenhearted, I forgot my own troubles. 3 children were to be educated, and God helped me wonderfully to provide for them. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Sorry that your husband, didn't do what he was supposed to do. How and why I began prison reform work in New Orleans. Okay, well, yeah, that's not a part of tonight's show, but I do implore you guys to go ahead and download this book to your phones. I have an iPhone, so I put this book in my books app. I have never seen this book before, so it's very interesting. But this is just another autobiography from the ancestors that's going to corroborate all of the shit that I'll be telling y'all in modern day on the timeline. It is what it is.